welcome to the podcast, Falcon Paladin.
Thank you, Somicron. Good to be here for yet another podcast-style day.
It is episode number 321. I think that's significant for some reason. The
Ooh, yeah, it
like
is.
Yeah.
Descending numbers. Good stuff. Yeah.
Yes. I once again recently saw someone on a YouTube short being like, it's the 19th of May, and so no matter which way you write it, it's like 19 plus 5 equals 24. And oh my god, my mind is blown. It's significant. And the poor video had no comments on it, no likes, no dislikes. I'm like, okay, YouTube algorithm showing me something brand new, and I just didn't have the heart to be the only comment that says that only works if you ignore the fact that it's 2024 and not just 24.
Is it really brand new?
Yeah.
Like you checked the post date and it was like 4 seconds ago?
Well, it's a YouTube short, so like you can't really pull up the information all that easily. But the fact that no thumbs up, no thumbs down, no comments from a channel that has like, I think it was like 120 subscribers. I was like, okay, this is probably, it's about today. Well, it's not even today's date. I think I saw it on the 20th for me because I live in the future. But
right.
You see like again, that's the problem.
It is.
It was newish. I don't mean like new as in fresh off the printing press, but you know.
No. Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I was just wondering if maybe it was, I mean, I guess people do upload videos that don't get any comments at all for like its entire history, but.
Oh, sure. Most of the podcast episodes don't get any comments.
Yeah, see? Exactly.
Yeah.
Could have been like that.
It could have been. But I don't think it was.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Numerology. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Worthless, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Cool. So we did have some GSL happen.
Oh, we did, didn't we? Let's look that up. GSL. Nope, that's last year. I don't want last year. See, a lot of people will be like, oh god, I'm going to write the date is like 2023 for so long. For me, I'm going to Google the wrong season of GSL, because that's my equivalent to that. I'm still looking up season 2 of 2023.
Does it autocomplete for you? Is that why?
Yes.
Yeah, so the browser's like, you only care about this one GSL season. Here it is.
Uh-huh.
And you can't be like, hey, stupid browser, that's not true. That'd be nice.
I mean, I should do what I do when I'm on my phone, which is just to bookmark the right one and then open that instead of searching for it every time.
Bookmarks? Who uses bookmarks for anything?
It's an excellent.
I did the same thing. I just type in GSL SC2, and then it's like, bam. Here's the page for the entire tournament, and then you can easily click on the ongoing tournament. And that's how I do it. So
fair.
Anywho. Yeah, Group D they did a couple days ago now. Dongregyu, Beyond Nightmare, and Solar. So as far as Dongregyu and Beyond getting out, Beyond not really a surprise. I think we both picked Solar to make it out of here, at least make it to Group Stage 2.
Probably, yeah.
And none of us really had much faith in Nightmare or DRG.
Yes.
Right, but this is why they play the games, because what an upset. Dongregyu makes it out.
Makes it out first, even.
Yeah. Nightmare 2-0s Beyond. And then gets smooshed by Dongregyu and Beyond and is not in. So, good start for Nightmare. Looked pretty good.
Yeah.
He's busting out the Psionic Storm against Beyond, which, you know, probably the least favored splash damage against Terran these days. It's usually more Colossus, more Disruptors. I'm not saying that nobody ever does Storm, but it's just kind of the one that's not as normal. Yeah, it looked really great. And then Beyond was just like, no. Definitely not.
Yeah, he woke up.
Yeah.
For the last game, yeah. Did you watch all of these games?
I did.
Yeah?
Yep.
Any standouts?
No. I don't think anything really stood out. I think I did skip the ZVZs. Because you know how I feel about ZVZ.
Yep.
It was only the 2 though, right? Only the 2 matches between Solar and Dongrigu there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dongrigu didn't do anything too weird against Nightmare. I mean,
No.
yeah, so nothing really stood out, I guess. Nothing that I was like, I really need to talk about this on the podcast. Other than the Nightmare 2-0ing Beyond to start us off, which was like, oh, okay. That made me sit up and take notice, but everything else was just...
Meh. Yeah.
I'm looking through the results, and it's like, yeah, Dongrigu beating Nightmare, sure. Beyond beating Solar, sure. Beyond beating Nightmare, sure. Like, nothing about it was too surprising from that point on, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah. It's not like anybody went mass battle cruiser or like mass hyperflight rotor banshees or something stupid, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's Group D. So now Group C, Group of Absolute Death. My goodness, Group of Death.
Yeah, Kua, Rogue, Stats, and Dark.
Brutal.
Yeah, so, I mean, Rogue and Dark?
I will tell you that Cure 3 owed Stats in Africa World 112 and looked really, really good doing it.
Did he look good or did Stats look bad?
That's always the question, isn't it? I don't know how we split that up.
Right. I don't think Stats has been back long enough. I mean, Rogue's only just gotten back. I think Rogue actually got back after Stats, so I'm really showing Zerg bias here. But
yeah, right.
You know, it's Rogue, world champion.
Sure. Cure's won a GSL. I mean,
cool.
Stats surprisingly has only ever won 1 GSL.
Huh.
He's done better in other premier events like WCS stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where his like championships come from. It's very interesting. Anywho,
he's not overseas at the moment, so.
Yeah, and I mean, Dark really pooped out last GSL, but he doesn't have a baby coming soon, so
that's true.
He'll be more focused. But also, he has a new baby. That's not good either.
He has a new baby, and from what I hear, a 9 to 5.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I feel comfortable taking Dark. This group is looking less Group of Death every second that we investigate it. Like, the only one without extenuating circumstances is Cure.
Yeah?
I'm going to take Cure to get out. I'm going to do it.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to take Dark.
Yep, that's fine. Yep. I understand it. I do.
I think even with a kid, even with being a 9 to 5 regular old schmuck, Dark is still better than all of these players combined.
Wow. Combined.
I mean, maybe not combined, but, you know.
We put up a 3v3 map, and one side it's Cure, Rogue, and Stats. On the other side it's Dark, and Dark just wins easily. Yeah.
I mean, we can do that, but let's do it fair, and Dark can start with 3 bases. Right?
That I'd probably watch. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
God, gotta recommend that to Pig or somebody.
Yeah.
I'd watch that, yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, we'll see. It's gonna couple days here.
We can touch back in on that next week.
I'm not gonna watch it at 3:30 in the morning. This is day after stuff.
Yep. This is way too. Well, I'm tired even just thinking about staying up till like 10 p.m. It's a nightmare. God, who stays out that late?
People who are not bakers do generally. Yeah. What's up, Bovine? Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, and then we'll have our group stage number 2 ready to rock. That's not for another couple weeks though.
Yeah, middle of June. Ugh.
Yeah, like well into June.
Yes, well into June.
Yes.
For Group B, maybe. All right.
What else is going on? I watched the Fallout TV show.
I also watched Fallout TV show.
You watched the whole thing?
Yeah, I started it last night and finished it this morning.
Holy crap, you binged the heck out of it. Because last time I talked to you, you're like, I haven't started yet.
Yeah. And I watched the first episode, and I was like, I'm supposed to go to bed in an hour. This is a problem.
And then it was a problem, and it continued on.
Yeah, I watched 2.5 episodes, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go lay down. I'll get up. I'll have 5 hours before the podcast to do like the last five and a bit episodes. It's fine. And I finished with half an hour to spare. It was great.
So I think that speaks well to your opinion on the show if you got that sucked into it.
I think it's a good show. Yeah.
I do too. I mean, I didn't binge the whole thing. I would watch like a couple episodes a night for a week, and that got me through. But I did definitely feel that draw to be like, "Oh, what's going to happen in the next episode?" And then I'm like, I could watch more, or I could go to sleep at a good time." And I did that. So that was my choice. But anyway, I got through it regardless. Yeah, it's good. I don't know. Are we now officially in a world where video game adaptations should just be considered the bar is now good? Instead of the bar is like down here, and if you're over it at all, you're incredible. You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Again, I think it's much more likely that you're going to be able to look at certain names in association with things and be like, do we trust these people rather than just giving all video game adaptations carte blanche of, you should be good, because I don't think that's true.
No, I just mean for our expectations. I just mean the next time a video game adaptation is announced, do we look at it and go, video game adaptation, I sure hope it wildly exceeds our expectations? Or should we say, we're in a new age where video game adaptations are good most of the time? And it might disappoint us, sure. But our expectations are higher now because of the good ones we've had over the last, 2 or 3 years.
Okay, let's test this. Just name any video game franchise, doesn't matter what, and tell me that they're announcing a TV show for it, and I'll give you my opinion as to whether or not I'm excited and think it should just be good because we're in a new age.
Okay, so for you, it basically depends on what video game they're adapting. Because
Yeah.
I will counter with they're adapting League of Legends, Somicron.
I mean, they've already done that though. That's the
I
problem.
know, but everyone's reaction was like, League of Legends, garbage, toxic fan base, stupid MOBA. That game is not good. And then they just managed to turn it into like one of the greatest things as far as video adaptations have ever been. So
Sure, but that doesn't mean they couldn't make a shit season 2, right? Like, I'm not just gonna be like, I expect great things from season 2 because season 1 was great. Like
I do.
I mean,
it's all the same people.
In theory.
I mean, most of the same people, not all of the same people.
Animation studios are like the modern day ship of Theseus, right? Like, if people move on, and is it really the same team?
Yeah, I don't know. It's that French animation studio, right? So it's not
so.
American and it's not Japanese. So it might be in its own little ecosystem where like job stability is maybe more the norm.
There's just no other French animation studios willing to take these people, so they all like fear for their jobs and can't leave.
I guess. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so back to the point. Let's name a different video game.
Right.
Let's say they decided to do like Elden Ring. Like maybe Dark Souls as a whole, but maybe just Elden Ring in particular.
That would immediately raise concerns because a lot of the storytelling, from what I understand, is environmental, and like you have to go and seek it out and sit there and read things for 20 minutes. I don't know how you make a movie out of that, right? Again, so I don't think we're in a golden age of where I should just expect that to be decent, because it's tricky to translate. It's very difficult.
Okay, so basically, yeah, it just wildly varies from game to game how easy it is to adapt. We've talked about how The Last of Us is effectively set up to be a movie you play anyway.
Right.
So that was easier to adapt than something like Elden Ring.
I guess I'm being a little unfair because there's a lot in Fallout where it's just like, I'm going to hack this terminal, and then I'm going to read the security log, and then the personal diary, and then the outgoing email, and be like, okay, from that I've discovered that this vault was in a school, and they killed all the parents, and then did eugenics. 'Cause it's always eugenics. You know, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's a good point. Bethesda games do like having you read story instead of necessarily having it told to you by characters or through stuff that's
But
happening.
there's definitely a lot of that, and there's always like the main story thing that's going on. But
Yeah.
there's definitely always a lot of stuff that you can pick up just from looking around and exploring on your own. So, I don't know, maybe, but like, I don't know. I certainly hope there's never an Elden Ring movie or a TV show, because it's, in theory, a lot of it was thought out by George R. R. Martin, so getting him to like write anything else, it's like, okay, come on, we just want Winds of Winter, go work on that.
Well, sure, but like the Fallout TV show wasn't written by Todd Howard or any writers from Bethesda. It was
Are
written
you
by
sure?
Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy,
But
the team behind Westworld.
and they didn't write for Bethesda at all?
No,
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 at
no.
all.
They're from Hollywood. They're Hollywood all the way down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's.
It certainly makes me wonder how much experience they had with Fallout and how many people they brought in to advise, because they really nailed it. Yeah, Jonathan Nolan is the brother of Christopher Nolan.
Well, that
So,
sounded familiar.
uh-huh. And I mostly know him from Westworld, where season 1 was great, and then it fell off a cliff after that.
Okay. I'm learning today that Fallout Shelter had a writer. The mobile game. I think it's. I don't particularly believe that these Fallout games that I'm looking at only had a single person write on the writing stuff. Like, on the
Ooh.
Wikipedia page, the credit lists Emil Pagula. I can't pronounce his surname. That guy, but
Sure.
surely there's way too many like branching trees and NPCs and stuff that one guy didn't write absolutely everything.
Right. I imagine that position that they call writer, they sketch the big picture, right? And then they'll bring in other unpaid interns and college kids to like actually write the logs, in the terminal and all that stuff.
Maybe. Well,
Would be my guess.
so yeah, that would make sense.
Anywho, in general, my take on this has been for a while now that it doesn't matter what the source material is. You can turn it into something good. You might have to change things in the original IP, but you can make a good thing out of it. And as we've always said, you can change stuff from the IP, and if the result is good and well received, then nobody cares. They only care about you changing stuff if you adapt it and it's garbage at the end.
Right.
That's where you get hit for it. And it's unfair because everyone changes things, but just make it good, which much, much, much harder than I'm making it sound here, right?
Right. Just make something good. It's so easy.
Yeah, right.
I suppose.
So I do think Elden Ring could be great.
What's the story of Elden Ring? You've beaten the game.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the basic story is that there's a family of demigods who've been fucking each other over for like millennia, and you end up in this land where they're hanging out, and you kind of get embroiled in all their family bullshit.
Okay.
So you could do some like family dynamic stuff here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure if you'd want to go with like the point of view of somebody starting to play the game, because I don't know. It'd be tricky. It would be really tricky deciding how you would want to do that, and I don't know what I would even do with it. But I believe it can be done.
I mean, I don't think it couldn't be done. I'm just always going to be skeptical that it could be done well.
Sure.
Like,
But that's for everything. There's no project where it's like, well, this is a surefire 100% down the middle hit every time. There's no chance this goes wrong, you know?
Aaron Dembski-Bowden writing Warhammer has never failed.
You know what? That one's fair.
Yeah. I suppose everything has a failure rate, but I can't help but be skeptical that translating from an interactive medium to a passive one is going to have a much higher failure rate than anything else.
I mean, that's been true over the last 40 years. Absolutely.
Statistically true at this point.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, are we getting better at it, or is this some kind of just blip? This is just we happen to get the right people with the right projects and everything worked out miraculously for 3 or 4 of these. And now is it going to go bad again, you know?
So, I saw someone speculate that the reason why a lot of movies are coming out really samey or bland or nothing really new feels like it's being made is because movies have reached critical saturation like books have, where there's like 60,000 books that come out every year, and it's like, well, how do you distinguish yourself as a book? How do you market that to get it interesting? And basically their theory was that Hollywood is not really capable like of adapting to having such a broad selection of movies come out. So instead what they do is they narrow it down to things that you're familiar with and already recognize. So that's sequels. And now the people are like, oh god, sequels, I don't want sequels. Like, okay, well, what else are you familiar with? I know, we'll adapt all these video games. And so they did 3 or 4 dozen and, failed miserably at them. Your Mario's, your Assassin's Creed, thinking, okay, well, we can just bring in money off the name brand. And now it's like, okay, but now we actually need to make something good.
Right.
So,
because nothing has ever succeeded off of name recognition alone. That's ridiculous.
Nothing has succeeded off. I don't know. Probably like luxury car sales. Like Lamborghini puts out a new car and it probably does perfectly well because if you can afford a Lamborghini, you want the new Lamborghini. And that's all name brand recognition, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. But I'm guessing more along the lines of movies, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that there's ever been something that's like, here is a movie, here's a thing here's a character here's a franchise guaranteed success. Like,
well, I think you're going to find different people measure success differently. Like the most recent or the last Tomb Raider game came out and sold 5 million copies, made Square Enix a shitload of money, and they were like, yeah, we were disappointed with its performance.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it depends on who's talking success.
Right.
Anyway.
So I think like a Tomb Raider game probably does sell off a lot of brand recognition because like it's a Tomb Raider game.
Yeah, but also good. I mean,
I don't
because the first Tomb Raider back in the 90s was great, really well received, really fun.
Take you
but then the sequels were like, meh. Like Tomb Raider 2 and 3, like nobody talks about them. They're not considered good.
Sure.
And yet, they're Tomb Raider games. And then they came back around, reworked it, brought it into the current, console generation, made them look good. Good, fun gameplay came back. And they did better. So, I don't know. I still think it really comes down to quality. And that people will accept good and will not accept bad. Which sounds really simplistic, but...
It does, but I just like, okay, so I need to like name a video game that came out that is objectively bad but still successful. League of Legends, Fortnite, RuneScape, World of Warcraft, These
I don't know. Again,
all games I think are probably not brilliant works of video game, mastery, but all commercially successful.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, World of Warcraft, when it came out, was mind-blowing. In 2004, it was fantastic.
It is not 2004.
Correct. Yeah, I don't know. I think all of those games reach a certain threshold of quality, though. You know what I mean? Like, they do what they want to do. They're not buggy. They don't crash all the time. There's not rampant hacking involved. Like, the studios involved have made it a solid experience in giving you what they intend to give you. And there's a certain segment of the population that likes every one of those games.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair enough. Okay.
Anyway, I don't know. I'd rather talk about some specifics in Fallout than go down this rabbit hole anymore. Unless you have something you'd like to pursue.
No, I'm good.
Okay. It's just interesting to think about. I don't know that we've reached any super endgame thoughts on the concept, but
no.
Yeah.
No.
My question is, how do you become a ghoul in the Fallout universe? Because we see Cooper. Cooper at some point becomes a ghoul. We don't see it happen. We see what's his face, Brotherhood of Steel Squire takes an inhaler, immediately turns into a ghoul instantaneously. So that's a way.
Yep.
Lucy's mom gets nuked at Shady Sands and turns into a ghoul. So what's going on here exactly, Fallout expert?
Oh, Fallout expert. Jesus, that's a lofty title for someone who's played 3 games and beaten like 1.5 of them. So from my understanding, the answer is just radiation. Like, I think it was in Fallout 3, there is a concept of ghouls, and then there are pre-war ghouls, which are ghouls that have been alive since pre-war. So they, like, when all the bombs fell, or, you know, as we later revealed that Voltec dropped themselves, these were people who just, like, caught in the blasts, soaked up a shit ton of radiation, and became ghouls. But also, all that radiation stuck around, and so, like, new people came out of vaults and, you know, other places and soaked up a ton of radiation and became ghouls.
So hang on. So nukes kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But those who happen to be in this, like, Goldilocks zone of not so close to the nuke they died, but not so far from the nuke that they didn't get radiated, those people become ghouls.
Not all of them, I assume, right?
Okay.
Please, Lucky, don't call me a Fallout expert. Yeah, I guess that's what happened. I don't assume everyone became ghouls because, like, just by population, there would be a lot of ghouls in that zone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know, there's, like, a quirk of biology. People who are slightly healthier than others, or have better healing, or just, like, a chem resistance, you know, they can just kind of tank it and incorporate it and can heal rapidly because of radiation mutation. They get the Deadpool kind of thing.
Right. Yes. Yeah, very Deadpool. Okay, so over time, the body does deteriorate because Cooper's missing his nose, right?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah.
I mean, he doesn't look like human Cooper at all.
I mean, he's still recognizable as what was his name? The actor.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah, Walton Goggins. Like,
I don't know.
I wasn't surprised at the flashback being like, "Who is that? That's really familiar," you know.
No, I know, but we know because of the flashback. I know who it is.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying, if like his wife ran into him 200 years later, like she's been in a cryo vault, right? So she pops out in current time, sees him. Is she like, "Holy crap, Cooper," or is she like, "What the hell are you?" You know what I mean?
I don't know. Probably.
I don't either. I think that'd be interesting to see.
I mean,
anyway, my point is, he's missing his nose. Is that the result of being a ghoul, or did it get shot off or something?
Well, I mean, it's probably the result of being a ghoul. But he is a very well put together ghoul compared to the other ones we see.
That's true.
Yeah. So,
well, then the other question is, the vials that he's been inhaling, what are those?
So, they make a lot of reference to the drug uses in the Fallout games. And there's, you know, we see Psycho X being taken by one of the raiders in the vault in the first episode. And it's like a little red and puffer veil thing, right? And Stimpaks look like Stimpaks. Radaway looks like Radaway. Right, there's blood packs that we see in background shots. I think what he's huffing is Jet. Which,
Oh.
Jet is is it Jet or is it Buffhat? I don't remember. I think it's Jet, but Jet is the one that increases your intellect points briefly. And so I think the idea is that ghouls, when their brain deteriorates, they go feral. And so if he's able to keep buffing his brain on drugs, he doesn't go feral.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's definitely the implication, right?
Right, they definitely like straight up say that like, oh, if you keep taking these drugs, you don't turn into one of those. They
Yeah.
do straight up say that.
Although at the same time, he goes and sells a Lucy to the organ harvesting mart
For Jet.
and then just like collapses in the dirt. He
Uh,
doesn't start going feral. He just like,
well, he was strung out,
yeah.
so that's him having withdrawals, not necessarily going feral.
Okay, so there is a countdown clock here to him going feral, but the initial symptoms are withdrawal.
Yeah, sure.
That makes sense. Okay. All right, fair enough. And it doesn't seem to be able to repair. Do you think it repairs brain damage that turns you feral? Like if you gave the drug to a feral ghoul, would it fix it?
I don't think so. Otherwise, he'd be less in like immediately. Let's just shoot this guy who's turning feral. You know,
Right.
because if he's like, well, I could just go find some doses and you'll be okay. But he's not exactly a kind-hearted person to begin with, I suppose.
Not so much. Although, I don't know, it could be considered a mercy what he does to almost
Yeah.
feral buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I the whole roller coaster for Lucid during that episode is hilarious. Because Cooper's treating her like shit. Like
Right.
he's treating her like nothing. She is not okay with this. No one's ever treated her this poorly in her entire life, right?
Right. Right.
And then he sends her in to the grocery store, trades her for 60 vials of the stuff. She gets in there and she's just a mess. And then talking robots like nice to her and stitches a new finger onto her hand. As a side note, I would have been like, so my finger's out there? Cooper has it? Could I just go grab it real quick? You could put that one on instead of this old gray disgusting one.
Well, yeah, but the TV show needs to be like, okay, if she goes out there and sees that Cooper's just on the ground in a puddle of his own spit, she's just leaving.
Yeah, I know, but you could just change the story to where he doesn't collapse until after she comes back out, gets her finger, goes back in, then he collapses. You know what I mean? That's workaroundable.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying. And then, so yeah, she's just, taken aback by how kind he is. And it's voiced by Matt Berry, which is just, it is so good to see Matt Berry in anything. I love him so much.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I was so worried I was going to be like sold into sex slavery. And he's like, sex slavery? Goodness, no. We're just going to harvest your organs. He's so morally repulsed by that idea. But then he's like, no, I'm just going to cut your kidney out. It'll be fine. You've got 2 of them.
It's mentats in the game that increases your intelligence. Apparently, Jet is like an AP recovery according to Aki. Yeah. So I mean, they could have just changed it. They don't explicitly say that I don't know, slowing down time for him or something, and giving him bullet vision or whatever, bullet time. But
yeah, I saw some people more arguing that his combat experience is just that he's been grinding for 200 years and that all his levels are maxed out at this point, right? Within the Fallout universe. He's just been out here doing stuff for 2 centuries, Not so much. I didn't see anybody really ascribe his ability to shoot stuff real good to the drugs, but I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe that helps.
I mean, I did not. I assumed that 200 years of being in on the wasteland just made him a great shot. Being something of a professional cowboy before he was an actor also probably gave him a ton of experience. Being a soldier.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
I linked his drug use to Mentats is like staving off his ability, his preclusiveness to turn feral, right? Like rather than his combat actions, you know.
Fair.
Because like we also see other ghouls taking it to do the same, and they're not exactly warriors.
No, they're not. But it really seems like he's one of the last ones that predate the war, at least as far as this region is concerned, because his buddy who's going feral like refers to him as like,
having
what does he say? Not many of you left. Yeah.
Even the one that he like mercy kills is like, hey, I made it 28 years, implying that he's a new ghoul.
Totally. I mean, a baby ghoul compared to Cooper for sure.
Yeah.
So how do you kill a ghoul? Apparently you can shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
But Cooper takes like several shots to the back and is fine?
Yeah, they're zombies, so you need to kill a brain.
So headshots. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
It's amazing how consistent that rule is.
Again, it's why I linked the intelligence boosting drug to his drug use, because it's like, okay, it's all about the brain.
It does seem to be.
Yeah.
100%. So my other question would be, what is the experiment going on at Vault 32?
It's a eugenics experiment.
Okay, but
so
explain.
Vault 31 is all of Vault-Tech's like management, or at least
yes,
it's all of Bud's buds.
And a brain in a jar, Bud.
Which is Bud. Basically, they're doing eugenics between the two groups to like make the best management stuff based on genetics by breeding like Hank and Betty and all these other people who were like the top brass at Vault-Tech. That's it.
Okay. I mean, as far as other types of experimentation going on in other vaults that I've heard about in the Fallout universe, that seems incredibly tame.
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's one of the Vault-Tech run vault experiments. Like at least in this, they're like, hey, does Robco want to do something? And they're like, sure, let's fucking pump the air full of psychoactive drugs and see what happens, you know? It's like that was, it's like the floor gets open to the other corporations to be like, hey, come fund some vaults and we'll let you do your experiments to figure out how society should be formed. And they're like, great, let's immediately do stuff that will in no way inform society on any meaningful level. And they're just like, okay. Right? Like...
Yeah, so I mean, I guess think your lucky stars if you end up in a Vault-Tech run vault, because it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, some of the Vault-Tech ones are still not great.
Right, which gets me to 32. What happened at 32?
So my guess is 32 routinely dies, and then they routinely repopulate it by splitting the gene pool off. And that's how they get rid of the people that they don't want, and then they wake more people up, and those people came from Vault 31, 31.
31, yeah.
Yeah. So all the people who have been deemed like favorable genetics get to stay in 33. 32 are all the off-casts that they don't want anymore. And so they just routinely kill them all off and be like, oh, it must have been Blight or Raiders or something.
Right.
And that's it. They go there just to like rebuild and die.
That's interesting. So 32 is the one that really matters for what they're trying to do.
33 is the one that matters. 32.
Sorry, 33.
32 gets caught. That's what I took out of it.
Okay, I hadn't thought about that. I like that perspective.
Yeah.
Man, that whole scene where I forget Lucy's brother's name. I call him Lucy's brother. Norm, after he and Big Dumb Guy have been through Vault 32 and seen all the corpses and everyone dead and all the crazy stuff.
And they're looking at the toaster and he's like, oh, someone had a fork jammed into this an hour ago.
Yeah. and coming back through again, they're like, oh.
I like his comment to to Betty, which is like,
yeah,
you did a good job cleaning up. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, super, super good. So, yeah, overall, really fun stuff.
I really enjoyed it. I was surprised at how gory they were like, yeah, no, That if you play Fallout, you can get the perk Bloody Mess, which gives every shot you do like a 5% chance to just have people explode. And like watching Cooper's fight in Philly, I was like, is he firing a bolt gun from Warhammer? Like it's going into people and exploding.
Right. Yeah, just had the perk.
Yeah. So like I was really surprised how gory it was. And then I would say that like the Fallout games are not like super keen on being like actively sexual in a lot of their side quests and stuff. It's often like it's in the background, but we're not gonna like really show it. And this one, they're like, yeah, so this is the main character, Lucy. She fucks her cousin for fun, right? Like in the first episode.
Cousin stuff. Oh man.
So that was wild for me. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was pleasantly surprised.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, there's again nothing too crazy going on in 33, but like the attitudes about certain things are definitely a little different from the norm. Mm-hmm. When she and Maximus are in that quarantine zone in Vault 4, and they're just like hanging out, and she's like, "Hey, you want to have sex?" And he's like, "Brain seg fault error."
He doesn't even know what it is. He's like, "There's this thing that happens to some guys when my thingamajig swells up like a pimple and pops. It's super gross. It doesn't happen to me though."
And she's like, "No, that's what happens every time. Ideally."
That's which is really interesting because if you actually go back to the episode 1, when he's at like boot camp or whatever, and he's like hanging out in the barracks, he's just sitting there like putting his shoes on, and in the background you can see a guy like jacking it hard under blankets.
Oh yeah, there is someone doing that. So he's got to have some idea of how this works,
right?
That's weird. Anyway. Yeah, just her attitudes about sex in general. Like, it's wedding night with this guy she met 4 seconds ago. She's like, sweet, let's go.
Right.
With Maximus, she's like, I have sex. And he's like, flubs it. And she's like, whatever, and moves on.
Yeah.
Like, she just has no hang-ups about this at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that whole first episode where, like, she's in her wedding dress, barefoot, stabbed, like fighting for her life as her vault's being overrun by raiders. I'm like, all right, this is some pretty crazy. Welcome to Fallout, I guess, is what I was thinking. Yeah. Like a good introduction to what you're going to be dealing with in this show.
I wonder how much of that was like we need a big event to like break the ice for people who have never seen the show.
Totally.
Or never played the game.
Played the game. Yeah.
Because that'll do it. I feel like. I mean, the moment that guy took his clothes off and I was like watching them bang, and I'm like, okay, he's got an awful lot of scars for a vault dweller. Like, he's probably a raider, right? Like, there was a nice little tip-off to, like, if you notice, you notice.
Yeah.
And then, like, the cherry on top is he's like, we've done having sex. Let me wipe my dick on the curtains. And she's just like, well, that's weird.
Yeah, but he comes from a vault she's never been to before. Like...
Yeah, but she's been told by her dad that, like, oh, it's pretty much the same as this. The mashed potatoes are maybe a little bit better. Not like, oh, these people who are
No,
like,
that's 31. 31 mashed potatoes are better.
Yeah, that's a good point. 32, I don't know. I think the idea is that they're all similar, though.
No, totally. Yeah, because when they meet up, they're wearing the same uniforms. They all seem to be polite. Like, nobody has a third eye, for example. You know. So, and they're not surprised by that. They're not like, oh man, 32, they're like us. That's weird. We were told they were wildly different.
Right, but like someone who has such a casual disregard for their environment around them, like the dwelling that they live in, is hugely different from anyone in Vault 33, right?
Right.
Raiders just go from town to town and like, oh, we want to blow up this old building. No one's here to stop us. This guy's like, I need to clean my dick. The curtains will do.
Yeah. I don't know. That could just be a personal quirk, though. People are weird. You could probably write that off.
I mean,
and I think she does. I don't think she really perks up to it until she notices that he's irradiated.
Right. She definitely doesn't like say anything about it. She's like, oh, I guess that's weird. But like, it's definitely a red flag for anyone else. I feel like for the viewer, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be like a tip off. Hey.
I honestly just figured he was weird. Like, and I honestly think anybody who's was born in a vault is probably weird in some way. It's such an insular community. Not a lot of people.
Sure.
You're doing cousin stuff. Like, you're just weird. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
So.
man. Also in Vault 4, when she goes to level 12 and gets busted and they're going to execute her. Number one, I love how that episode ends with her getting like dragged out, and then it cuts to Maximus like watching TV and eating popcorn in a robe. Just and it's just a waterfall. It's not even like a TV program. It's just a waterfall rolling, and he's just grinning like an idiot. It's like eating his popcorn, and Lucy's life is in mortal danger. That's super great.
Yeah. No.
And then for them to go through the whole charade of being like, bring her out, tie her down, coming out with a sword. Only to completely have it be like, and you're banished, and we're giving you 2 weeks of supplies.
Yeah. So I do have a tiny problem, which is, like, we find out that Vault 33's water supply is broken, and that they're gonna run out of water, but absolutely nobody talks about this for the rest of the movie, the rest of the TV show.
It gets brought up once. When? Somebody mentions it.
It gets brought up that that's how her dad knew that there were civilization on the surface because their water supply was being drained somehow.
Right.
But the fact that the Vault 33 is still going to run out of water,
Yeah.
it seems like a huge problem that just never gets addressed. But like also the fact that like the surface was draining their water supply means that they're probably tapped into natural ground well rather than like having a big jug of it and then recycling, which means that given that the fact that distances are all like places you can walk to in an hour in this show,
Well, I don't know.
it feels like Theon Greyjoy going from like the Iron Isles to Winterfell in half a day, right? Like it does not feel like they were walking for days and days every single time. But like this other Vault 4 is like, great, we just have unlimited water. It's like your water would be the same as the other people's. Or at least
probably tapping, and someone's probably tapping into the same water source. Yeah.
I just feel like water was supposedly a big issue that just never gets resolved and seems to affect vaults differently, despite them being relatively near to each other. It feels like.
It's fair.
Yeah.
And then the final shot of the show is New Vegas, which is fun.
Yes, New Vegas. So I did see there were people online who were like, so we know which endings are supposedly canon because of establishing shots and stuff like that.
And when Shady Sands is destroyed and some other stuff, yeah.
And I'm like, I have no idea about any of that, so I'm very excited to see who's running New Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I bet they're probably operating more from a we're doing our own timeline thing. The show is its own thing set in the Fallout universe.
Possibly. I did see some like behind the scenes video with like Todd Howard being like, yes, I was very particular about making it fit into the timelines with the games. And some particular canon stuff. Right?
Yeah, but I saw a ton of Fallout nerds freaking out about the timeline, so they didn't do it very well.
Like that's the problem with like having 4 games of like choose your own adventures. It's like you can't make everyone's gonna be happy.
No, but again, just mention it again, the destruction of Shady Sands is something that happens in Fallout 3 or referenced in Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
And the year that it happens.
Sure.
And when Lucy's in Vault 4 and she's at the school and there's the whole thing about Shady Sands and the year that it gets nuked, it's different. So, I mean, that kind of stuff is like...
So, when she's looking at the year, the timeline on the chalkboard or whatever, it does not explicitly label the year it gets nuked. It says that, like, Shady Sands and 177 or whatever, and then there's another line that draws to the nuke. It does not label the nuke with a date.
Isn't it like... the fall of Shady Sands or something.
It labels
What's the word it uses?
I think it labels the fall of Shady Sands as one thing and the nuclear detonation as another. So it could be like, Shady Sands gets invaded by the what are they called? The Legion, right? Like, that's one event, and then the nuke being detonated, that's the second. Because Shady Sands was NCR. NCR versus Caesar's Legion, right?
Yeah,
that's all New Vegas. It did the way that it's set up on the board. The nuclear detonation and the fall of Shady Sands are not necessarily the same event.
Right. But at the same time, in the story of the show, Vault-Tec nukes Shady Sands. Lucy's dad does it.
Sure.
That's not NCR. That's not Brotherhood.
Right. But that doesn't mean that Vault-Tec was just is the behind the fall of Shady Sands either, because a lot of the war never changes and we want to all these little factions warring within each other, that's still going on. That could have still easily befallen Shady Sands before the nuke. Who was occupying Shady Sands when the nuke went off is still technically an open question.
Yeah, Maximus was. He was like 5.
Yeah. Maximus is a very Roman name.
Yeah, that's a good point. There might be a clue there.
That might have been like a Legion given name, because Titus is also quite the Latin name.
Yeah, a 5-year-old kid comes out of a fridge after a nuke. You're not going to be like, "What's your name, kid?" You probably would, but maybe not the Brotherhood of Steel. They're like, "You need a cooler name." Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so good stuff. So season 2, which I think has already been greenlit, is going to be the hunt for Lucy's dad and Cooper's family. Whatever happened with them?
Yeah. So the last, we see that he's with his daughter when the nukes go off.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. He has her.
So I think.
So at what point do they get separated to the point that he's looking for her 200 years later?
I assume that what's going to happen is he's going to at this point he's split from his wife because she's like, yeah, we're going to drop the bombs ourselves, and he can't do anything about it. Nobody will believe him. Whatever.
And they mention the alimony when he's doing the birthday party,
right. So he's on horseback. He's going to get his daughter to a vault. And she's going to be there, take your daughter, and be like, there's no room for you. You're not on the list. And he's going to get stuck outside of the radiation.
Ooh.
That's my
But then he'd know where they are. He would know they're in this vault.
But
they
could have moved vaults.
That doesn't sound like something that happens very often.
They can make up whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my guess, right?
Okay.
Because he very clearly has his daughter at the time, right?
Yeah, and they made sure that we know that she's there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to point out one thing, which is, I guess, technically now a retcon, which is the idea that you should hold up your thumb to measure against the... That was a fan theory about what the Vault Boy was doing on Vault-Tec posters and stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
That was not an official why they drew it to be like that. Someone just invented that as a reason, and Bethesda has now co-opted it and made it canon.
The Bethesda's like,
that's a
great idea. It's not ours.
Yeah. So, just if a nuke goes off, don't try to measure it with your thumb. It's not a real thing.
Interesting. All right. Well, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Season 2.
Coming
sometime.
Coming soon. 2027.
I don't know.
Who knows? It'll get here when it gets here.
Yep. What I'm worried about is that Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy did Westworld. Westworld season 1 is one of the greatest seasons of TV ever. And then seasons 2 and 3 are huge disappointments. So I'm just worried they're good at setting stuff up and not so good at continuing the awesome.
Was season 1 an adaptation?
Yes.
Okay. Did they run out of material to adapt?
Probably.
Have they run out of Fallout material to adapt?
Not yet.
Not yet. Season 2 will be great. Season 3 will be trash. That's what I'm...
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Fallout Season 2 is going to be New Vegas. We'll see. All right, good. The Warhammers time.
Warhammer, yeah.
Yeah, so Betrayer. Again, I'm going to complain about the general non-specificity of the name of these 30K Heresy books. It's ridiculous.
I have no issue with it.
Fine.
It is ambiguous because who is the betrayer and betrayer?
I understand that.
Okay, good.
Fine. Fine.
So Betrayer by Aaron Dembski-Bowden. What is the general plot of this book, Falcon?
Lorgar and Erebus having plans because that tracks.
Yeah.
The bro ship between Argol Tall and Karn.
Yes.
The greatest bro ship. We get more investigation into Angron as a... I hesitate to use the word person, but as a person.
Yeah. It's quite the revelation that he is, in fact, a person.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of Gilliman on a revenge page going on, too.
That is all fair points, yeah.
Yeah.
So specifically what's going on is, I think it's called the Shadow Crusade. This is the Word Bearers Crusade across Ultramar, just causing general havoc and mayhem to the Ultramarines 500 homeworlds.
In specific ways, we're not just nuking them from orbit. We're going down, we're causing pain, we're causing strife, because that helps us with what we're trying to do.
Right. So I think the reason Lorgar is like often like tiptoeing around, which is he is very specifically trying to blood the World Eaters. So the first planet they go to is this one. It's like a bastion world called Armatura. And they very specifically are like, no orbital bombardments. The World Eaters and us are going to deploy. And then all of a sudden, the World Eaters are kind of not around to be found for a lot of the fights. Like, it's like, oh, the World Eaters push forward too much. But is it really? Or is it like the Word Bearers are lacking because they want the World Eaters to do a lot of the work? They want to really bloody themselves.
I mean, I would use the World Eaters that way because they sure enjoy it.
That's true. But given that Lorgar's quest here is to get Angron to fall to Khorne he wants to be corrupted by Khorne. Getting his legion bloody is probably a good way to do that as well. So 2 birds, 1 stone.
Sure, but I'm just saying it's not that hard. If you want to bloody the World Eaters, they're willing to do that. They're interested in this idea.
Right, but like you also have to be like, okay, well, we need to think of reasons to have them not bombard the city, and I guess because I say so, it has to be good enough, you know?
Yeah, and they're like, sweet, we enjoy hand-to-hand fighting on the streets. We don't like watching orbital bombardment. Again.
Well, I mean, they kind of do, because they like honor Lotara Saren for it. That's explicitly what they say, is like they gave her the red handprint for how many like void ships she shot down one time.
Yeah, but they'd always prefer going down to the planet and wreaking havoc.
Sure. But they also are like, hey, Word Bearers, you have to come with, right?
Yeah, for sure. Just because, again, Amatara is a massively important ship to the planet to the 500. Although they do talk about how it's not specifically important to the Ultramarines Empire.
It's not specifically important as a recruiting world to the Ultramarines Legion, because they recruit from everywhere. But it
even
is a military stronghold for like regular human people.
It is. But there's a whole big part at the beginning where they just talk about how, like, it's not like by destroying this world we break Ultramar. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of symbolic, sure, but Kalth was probably a bigger symbol than Amatara is. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely just sell Amatura as a bastion world, a place with like 1 billion soldiers is the number that they give. Like it straight up has 1 billion. It's just in armed forces, not alone anyone else.
They're suspicious of that number, but regardless, it's a huge number of forces.
It's a huge number.
Yeah.
So it's probably, like, I don't know. Like, it's not symbolic why we're killing these people. It's because there's just a lot of people, right? That they're literally just going after a body count here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason that it's important, is because there's a lot of people to individually die on this planet. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is another wonderful reference to the book Battle of Abyss, which we will not be reading, which is the word bearers have commissioned this giant ship, this giant supposedly one-of-a-kind ship that is monstrously huge and meant to like take down entire fleets by itself, and they're like, oh, but it got destroyed somehow on its way to Macragge. Go read that other book, and here this book, Lorgar is like, actually, I made 3. Checkmate, atheist.
Yeah. Trident shaped, which I thought was an interesting way to build a ship, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess like they have long like guns that run the entire length of the ship. So if you just have 3 prongs, you could have 3 of them.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense. Kind of.
Yeah. No, look, man. When you're in space, it doesn't really matter. Like, you can build your ship any design you want. There's no aerodynamics out here.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, with the 3 ships, it's basically a foregone conclusion that Amatura is going to die. So, I mean, whatever. Kill as many people on the ground as you can. I already talked about this with you, but the World Eaters get sucked into this plan where the Ultramarines are like, oh no, help, we're retreating from before you. And then the World Eaters are like, rah, we're gonna kill you all. And then they just set charges and like collapse entire buildings on legions, and a lot of them die, and Angron gets buried under like 50 meters of rubble. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like that could happen every time you fight the World Eaters, because when the nails have them, there's no logic there.
Right.
None of them are thinking.
Uh-huh.
They're ferocious, unstoppable fighters, but if you want to have them drop into a tiger pit, it's pretty much easy to do that, you know?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay, that's all.
I know, I entirely agree, yeah. And, like, the fact that this entire city, or, you know, like, the city where they're fighting, the entire planet is under military command means if you want to blow up a couple buildings, you can evacuate them much easier than you could if you were just like, okay, we're deploying to this planet I've never been to. What can we do about the city we're fighting in? And it's like, okay, well, we're ostensibly here to save people. We can't really rig their hab buildings to drop them on World Eaters every time, you know? So it's very much a home field advantage being able to lay a lot of traps like that are going to be super effective against the World Eaters. So it's good to see it when we can, because we're not always going to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the idea of a mindless, incredibly strong legion. It just seems like that's such an Achilles heel.
Yeah.
And I mean, Laura talks about on their way to Amator, World Eaters are like, we need to stop and kill some planets. We're getting bored. And I'm like, none of those planets were like, oh, World Eaters are coming. We know how to deal with this. They all just die. Yeah. Like, none of them know how this works. And it's like, all right, well.
It definitely seemed, because they talk about the year-long travel from Isfahan system to here, which is that they maybe were dropping on worlds that hadn't even heard of the Heresy yet. And they're like, oh, hey, legions are coming to visit. Let's get ready for a parade. And then it's the World Eaters, and they slaughter the entire planet's population.
Right. So I guess there wasn't a lot of time to set charges and dig traps and stuff.
Yes.
That's fair.
Yeah. So the book, I feel like, really is only on 2 planets. One of which is Amatura, and then New Syria. Like,
Yep.
sure, they spend a lot of time like on the ships talking, and there's some pit fights which are good fun.
And there's a fantastic moment with Captain Herface.
Lotara Saren.
Lotara! Yeah.
Okay, so at Armatura, they're in a void war, and she's like, "Oh no, we're about to be boarded. Please, the Marines whose duty is to stay behind and defend the ship. Please prepare yourself to defend the ship. Lord Delvaris, please respond. Please respond."
No response. She goes, "Where the hell is Lord Delvaris?" And someone's like, he went down to the planet to fight."
So
Which she should have probably expected on some level. Let's just be honest.
I mean, maybe, but I think this is one of the moments that really demonstrates that the fact that the World Eaters, despite being an incredibly aggressive legion, can, a lot of the time, at least, even with the nails, are maybe able to hold it together when they really require to. Like, the supreme acts of will and discipline can keep them to some semblance of an organization, and like, because later he totally like accepts his lesson and is like, I get it," and sticks around.
Yeah. Right. If you're not actively in the midst of combat, yes, you can probably hold it together, right?
But
even Argol Tal, who's like one of the more cerebral World Eaters we know.
Argol Tal is a word bearer.
Oh, no, right. He's a word bearer. Karn is one of the more cerebral World Eaters that we know.
Yeah, okay.
Even when he gets in the heat of battle and he's in the mix, he just loses it. He's gone.
Right, but Delvaris's abandonment of his post was not in the heat of battle. He deployed to battle. He was just like, fuck it, peace out. Order and discipline doesn't matter. Why should I be United Glory?
Yeah, that's why Lotar is so pissed about it. He wasn't caught up in the nails and had no ability to make decisions for himself. He made the decision. Right, and that's why she's so mad. So, right, I think we agree.
Yeah, we agree. I'm just saying that it's kind of sad that, like, because a lot of this book is also about Angron's decision to mutilate his legion, and it's like, okay, so even with the nails here, if we didn't have the nails, like, imagine that what this legion could have been as a fighting force without the nails. Because even with the nails, there's a chance and a shimmer of hope that, like, some of these people can hold themselves together at, maybe not in the middle of combat, but, like, just at times enough to maintain a structure of organization.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments that's like, okay, put a pin in this because this is why it matters,
Right.
But I think Lotara really sells herself as a notable character when Delvaris comes back to the bridge after being down on the ground, and she shoots him in the head, and like with a las pistol to an armored helmet, right? Like, he stumbles, but doesn't kill him. It is just chef's kiss for like people standing up to a legionnaire. And like, oh god, you live to see it,
Human, not other human. Legion. Human does it like that. There are so few examples of this that I've seen so far. Yeah, she shoots him, and then his World Eater buddies shoot her. Yeah. And the only thing that keeps her alive is there's a psyker, the one remaining World Eater psyker. Like, stops the projectiles. That's it. She's dead otherwise. And she knows it because she thanks him. She's like, thanks for whatever you did.
Right.
Because poor being a psyker in the World Eaters Legion, man.
Yeah. Who would have thought giving the Butcher's nails to a psyker would ever be a good idea?
World Eaters.
Freaking angry.
We talked about this. The legions, the World Eater legions, did not feel a connection to Angron. Partially because, especially early on, Angron has the connection to his brothers and sisters from his homeworld who died. When he got abducted by the Emperor, right? That's who he relates to. That's who he feels for. He doesn't necessarily relate to these legions who he is told are his sons. So the proposal comes out, butchers nail everybody in the Legion, and they're like, okay, maybe if we do this, we can feel a connection to Angron, and he can feel a connection to us, and we can actually truly be a family, like the other Legions are.
Right.
And then in the darkest moments, they admit to themselves that this did not work at all. And it's like, man, it was a big sacrifice for no return.
This was a big decision that didn't work, and we're unable to even like pull back from it. We can't take them out of the people who have it, and we kind of can't stop giving it to the new recruits either, because Angron's like, no, everyone gets this now, you know?
Right.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Yeah, the World Eater story is just terrible. Terrible. So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Lotara ends up waking up all of the dreadnoughts on the ship to defend from the boarding, and we get Lork, the old chapter master before Angron, like pre-Angron. This is the guy who led the chapter, or the Legion. And like, okay, so there's a couple of dreadnoughts running around, but he like, there's a great moment where they're like, oh, we need you to defend us from being boarded by the Ultramarines, and he's like, the Ultramarines
are Ultramarines?
Those are our allies. What are they doing? Like, oh, they boarded us. Please shoot them, please.
Yeah, and don't they like, I think she pulls up a map. She's like, here's how the galaxy looks right now. Like, here are the forces we're fighting against. Anyway.
Yeah, she like tells them to give him some more informational downloads or whatever, so he's like able to understand the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but God, look.
Yeah, and he's got some problems with Angron. Like more than once. He's like, I wake up. They wake me up every few years, and every time Angron is worse. He's more unstable. He's angrier. He's more volatile. Yeah. This trajectory is not good for my Legion, Yeah, so he's an interesting dreadnought for sure.
Yes. So what else happens? Delvaris gets humbled in the gladiatorial pits that they go to and do for fun, because like World Eater's got to do something in their downtimes, and it turns out it's show matches against each other.
And by show matches, sometimes people straight up die.
Yes, so you can do it to first, second, third blood, or sanguis extremis, which is just death.
Yep. Who is it? Like the first time they mentioned the pits in the book, somebody's like, I killed this dude. And the response is, I liked that dude. It's like, everybody liked that dude. He's dead now. Do you remember who that was?
No. So it's probably Kargos, because Kargos is like the blood splitter that gets mentioned. He's always killing people down there.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
Anyway, whatever. The point is, sometimes it's for sport, sometimes it's not.
Yes.
Yeah, so the World Eaters take it upon themselves, because Lotara really, she can technically try to confine him to quarters for his rebellion, but you can't really teach him any kind of a lasting lesson, I guess.
Right.
So the World Eaters decide that they agree with Lotara enough that a lesson needs to be taught. They're going to teach him one.
And he definitely even says that, like, oh, this wisdom feels like Khan's. So it is Khan being like, look, we need to keep this guy in line, because he's like one of the few of us who has a duty that we just can't like piss about with, because if we lose the ship, we're losing way more than what it looks like we're giving up, right? And so he's like, okay, I need to go improve myself in the pits. I'll do my 8 fights, and 8's an important number to Khorne. It's like his number. So it's like, oh, has Khorne been secretly being empowered by the World Eaters Legion this entire time? It's like, yes, obviously, yes.
Yeah.
And so he does his 8, and then someone else challenges him. He's like, no, I'm not doing any more. Like, no, you keep going. And he wins 27 straight bouts, which, impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they reference him as being one of the greatest fighters in the Legion. Certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, not setting up to Ingron because Primarch, but anybody else, he's as good as anybody. Yeah.
Right.
Which, again, is why it's such a big deal that he bailed. Because he's really good at what he does.
Right. It's why he holds such an important position out of everyone, right? Like,
yeah, and you can totally understand why he hates it. He hates babysitting a ship while his brothers are down there murdering folks, and he wants to get in on the murdering too.
but
And
like,
not every battle there's borders to repel, so you can totally understand why he's like,
yeah.
let's go. Yeah,
And it's like, there seems to be very few positions of any real note in the Legion. It's like, okay, there's Khan, who's the equerry to Angron. There's Delvaris, who's like the people who guard the ship. And then there's Angron's bodyguards, who Angron does not give a flying fuck about.
it's like early on, people fought each other in the pits for the honor of being Ingron's bodyguards, and then once everyone figured out he does not care about you and it's the worst job in the Legion, that stopped.
Oh, so good. So good.
So good. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of this, and we knew this already from previous books, Angron's just ridiculous fixation on what happened the day the Emperor abducted him, right? He cannot at any level let this go. Right? He, you know, he's made a slave on this planet. He's fighting in the pits. He's got his brothers and sisters fighting with him. They escape. They're staging a rebellion against the people, against the leadership of this city. It's going great. Generally, like, he really loves these people, and right before a major battle, he gets teleported up to the Emperor's ship, and they all get killed.
Yeah.
And I get it. That's trauma. Like, that's a big thing to experience. Your whole family gets eviscerated and destroyed because some alien showed up and put you on his ship.
Yeah. After you refuse to, like, go with them just of your own accord, right? Like, and it definitely comes up. There's a lot of conversation with Angron where, like, he's always been depicted as, like, a bloody monster of a fighter. Like, he's huge. When he gets trapped underground earlier, he's like, he needs, like, all of his psychics come to his aid and been like, sire, you've been digging in the wrong direction. You were buried 50 meters underground. You're now 200. Please turn around and come back. So he is, like, wrath and rage unchained in mortal form, basically. But there's a lot of conversations where he expresses really heartfelt emotions that he can't really convey in any other way other than just by, like, killing. It's the only thing that takes his mind off it. But it's like, why did the Emperor do this to me and my Legion? He didn't do this to anyone else. He didn't, like...
Right.
There was no victory parades. He didn't spend weeks in contests like he did with Russ on Fenris. Like, if you read those books, he's, like... has drinking contests and eating contests and bouts of strength with Russ to prove that he's his father. None of that is going on with Angron. It's an abduction and a betrayal.
Yeah.
Almost immediately, you know?
Yeah, and Lionel Johnson. It's coming down and saying hello and sending emissaries. And on other planets, the Emperor's forces have helped the Primarch conquer the planet. Like... Yeah, like, why? What is different about Angron that... Because if we follow the pattern of what the Emperor is doing during this process, he finds one of his sons. He should have come down and helped. Like, he should have sent forces to help Angron in his current quest. And he didn't.
And
I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question.
That is the question. And, like, I think... like, my theory is, and it's a totally theory, and if someone else has, like, a different theory, great, it could be way more valid than mine. But New Syria, when they get back there, is in theory an Imperial planet, right? So from the Emperor's perspective, it's like, I teleported my Primarch off this planet, but the compliance still is held, right? Like, he doesn't need to take the planet. So the way he looks at it is like, okay, if I deploy the Legion to go and save the Primarch, they're just killing Imperial citizens. Like, the High Riders are the Imperials on this planet.
Ooh.
That's what we find out when Angron comes back, and they're all like shit scared of him.
You can have a massive slave class that you have fight each other for your amusement and be in compliance with the Imperium. Okay.
Yep.
I guess I'll wait for to see another planet that's doing that, because I haven't seen one yet.
I can give you some 40k reference if you want.
That's fair.
Yeah. So the imperial compliance is just basically, do you pay your tithes? Yes. No. Check the box. That's kind of
Do
what
you
that.
do you
Right.
worship the emperor as a god?
Check no, right? Like,
Right.
are you willing to give up all other forms of religions? Check yes. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of it. Beyond that, they don't care if you're like a feudal society or you're running slave pits. They kind of don't care as long as their tithes are met and the imperial laws that they care about are met, which is at this time like religion mostly, and like handing over of psyches.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That totally for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, So it's just a unique situation. It's just an imperial world where interfering would have created a bigger mess than not.
Yeah, that's kind of the only thing I can get out of it, because like it
Yeah.
is part of the 500 worlds is essentially what we're told in this book, which makes it one of Gulliman's planets. So he's already found Gulliman, I believe, at this point, and he's like, okay, I'm not here to fuck with Gulliman's planets, and like Gulliman's running. He's not like deliberately hands on with like there being a slave pits and gladiatorial bouts, but like the 500 world is basically Space Rome, and Space Rome had an arena, you know? Well,
Yeah, right.
Rome
Right,
had an
right.
arena, yeah.
I wonder if some of it too is like every other Primarch had conquered at least his general
Well,
region by the time he got found.
every other Primarch had at least their planet done, yeah.
The whole planet.
The whole planet. Angron is the only one who didn't.
It was a near thing with Lionel Johnson, but he got it.
Yes.
Right. So I'm wondering if part of it, honestly, is the Emperor seeing Ingron as inferior. Just being like, who's this dumbass who's running around in the forest who hasn't conquered anything at this point? He can barely handle this one city of High Lords. What's his friggin' deal?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not going to treat him like the rest of my sons. I'm going to yank him up here, see what his deal is. Oh, no, you're super fucked in the head. What do we do from here? And it just goes from there, you know?
Right, right. And
Yeah.
so in the other Aaron Dembski-Bowden book that we've read, which is Master of Mankind, that's the Emperor back on Terra with Angron.
Right.
They're like, let's try and get the Butcher's Nails out, Arcane Land, and he can't. I think that these books maybe miss a trick where they say the Emperor goes down to New Syria, chats with Angron, and then he's like, okay, he won't come. Let's teleport him up to the hold and just like leave him. I think because like Khan eventually talks to Angron, and he could still at that point. I feel like there's like they don't tell you how that last final stand of all his brothers went right then and there. Because I feel like that's a very short time. Angron could have still like learnt that he's the Legion Master now and deployed to New Syria and maybe saved some of them. I don't know. I feel like that bit of time is too short. But what they could have done is the Emperor, when he teleports Angron off New Syria, immediately knocks him out and drags him to Terra for study, right? And so when he wakes up in his hold, he's not above New Syria anymore, and it's months or years later, you know?
Yeah, it's way too late to save his people. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't explicitly say that, but I think it would have been, like, it's my headcanon of what happens.
Yeah. No, I'm okay with that. I'll accept that for sure. Okay. So initially, Ingron doesn't want to go back home. He's like, all my friends are dead. I have no interest in going back there. Lorgar's like, you really should go back home. You need to come with me.
Yeah.
I have ulterior motives I'm not going to tell you about.
Lorgar is very explicitly trying to manipulate his brother's emotions so that he, like, becomes part of the Song of the Warp, you know? And can make this transformation, you know?
Yep.
Which, you know, it's really, really heartbreaking to read when Angron does go back to the mountain where his brothers and sisters all died.
Yep.
And he he makes like a bandolier of their skulls, and he's like, I want them to see the world that killed them, and like, you know, soak them in the blood that they should have spilt themselves, you know, or like we should have died together. And he gives like he's standing on top of this boulder, and he's giving this like really heartfelt speech, and it just kills. It is so well written that because it's kind of hard to write a Primarch as a believable demigod, but I think this totally nails both the war incarnate version of Angron and the man that he still technically is.
Right.
I just absolutely love this book for that. But he goes to see who's ruling the planet now, and it's a child. It is the last of this bloodline, and it's a child.
Yep. But he recognizes that the signet is the same, so it's the same family that I was fighting against all those many years ago.
Yeah, they used to own me. Is what he says. Yeah, and he basically orders all of the word bearers and all of the world eaters to deploy and to kill every single person on the planet. He's like, kill everyone in this city, and then when you're done there, the next city, and then the next, until the entire planet is empty.
Yeah.
Which...
It's Angron.
It's Angron, yeah.
But it's Angron for you.
Yeah, yeah. Whew. Okay, so...
So while they're doing this, there's a very, very angry Gilliman out there who somehow catches wind of the fact that both Lorgar and Angron are on this planet.
Right.
Without their entire fleet.
Yeah.
And goes, opportunity! It's not super clear how he finds this out, but whatever. It's cool. I'm down.
Yeah. Someone on a planet that was getting slaughtered sent an astropathic message. There you are. Done.
Yeah, that'll do. That'll do.
He basically rustles up whatever fleet he can. It's described as being ragtag, about 40 or 50 ships, it sounds like. And he's like, I'm a-coming for you, Lorgar. Let's freaking go.
Yep.
He gets there, Lotara's doing this massive battle because there's only 3 ships, and one of them is the Blessed Lady or whatever, the big huge ship, one of the ludicrous Trident ships. There we go. And she's doing her best to make sure that there aren't any Ultramarines deploying. She's killing battle barges as priority because that means thousands of troops deploying to this area. But Gulliman eventually gets on the ground and engages Lorgar in mortal combat. And who starts winning? I mean, I think it's Gulliman starts winning. He starts beating the snot out of Lorgar as this warp song. It starts raining blood at this point, right?
Yep.
And
classic Lorgar stuff. Yeah,
classic Lorgar stuff. Angron is in the middle of transforming into demonhood, right? He is getting wrapped up in this ethereal storm, and his flesh is peeling off him, and Lorgar's I'm saving you, brother.
Yeah. But an interesting moment happens. Lorgar's getting his ass beat. Angron comes charging out of nowhere and turns tide, right?
Right. Even in the middle of all this, he's like, "No, my brother, I will save you because you're a weak Primarch, Lorgar. You've been a coward all your life."
Right. I need to help you out.
Yeah.
Because Angron being Angron.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even Gilliman's oh, shit. It was hard enough to try to take Lorgar down. Now Angron, full-on Angron mode is here. This is not going for me.
Yes.
So he's getting his ass beat. He is... They say, Angron is ready to deliver the killing blow when Lorgar's little enchantment reaches a point where it, a lightning bolt hits Angron and, takes him out of the fight.
Yeah.
And initially, Angron's pissed about it because he's I was going to kill him. What is this garbage? Which, fair. I get it. I'm on your side there. And and then Lord, I'm turning you into a demon.
Yeah.
This is going to fix the nails problem.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, his body is re-sleeved in warp body, right? He ends up with wings and he's giantly grotesque, but he still has the nails. If you've
right.
Have you ever seen a picture of what Angron looks like as a demon Primarch?
No.
Oh, I should find you a good one. Give me a second.
Okay.
Because I could just give you the model, and the model's really cool, but the model's quite recent. So let me get your copy image. Where's Discord? There it is. There you go.
Excellent.
That's Angron.
The big guy?
The big guy, yeah.
Oh, he's so big.
He's huge now, and he's like...
He has wings.
He has
like
wings.
Arnold Tall.
Yeah, except he also still has the butcher's nails. Like, they're still there, planted in his head.
So, like, what did Lorgar mean, then?
Well, so demon Primarchs are now demons, and if he dies in the material world, he can recoalesce in the warp and will live forever.
Sure.
So he's given him one of the most things that everyone wants from Chaos Gods, right? Like one of the things that like all of the Space Marines that will always continue to fall to chaos is immortality. That's what they want. They all want.
Yeah.
That's what that is. That's demonhood. That is immortality to them. It's like I could die here, but I could always be reconjured.
Okay, fine. So he's still as tortured by the nails as he's ever been. Mm-hmm. Is it still degrading? Because, like, they're talking about how it's getting worse. So that's still happening.
Yes.
So the only true way to save him is to kill him and have him recoalesce without the nails?
He comes back with the nails.
Oh, my... How?
So that is the heartbreaking thing about the World Eaters and Angron. Like, the tragedy is that Lorgar wants to save him, but his definition of saving him is still eternal torture for Angron.
That's bullcrap. I thought I was
40K.
understanding Lorgar for a minute there. I really did. Now I'm out again. I'm out on Lorgar.
Yeah, well.
Man, what the hell? Okay,
Chaos.
fine.
And
Great.
like, and not all that, but now his soul is like forever entwined to Khorne as well. Like, he's now a slave to the Blood God.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sad. It's a real sad
That's
time.
insane. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I do have to say I'm a little disappointed that we had a 3-way Primarch battle and no one died. I was like, aw.
Yeah, that is kind of a problem that, like, there's going to be a lot of, like, times where Primarchs meet and just manage to not kill each other, you know?
Yeah.
But I
like,
promise
there's that Kurz Gilliman fight. That's exactly that.
Kurz Lion?
Oh, yeah. Kurz Lionel. Yeah. Kurz
yeah.
Lion fight is that. There's the Russ Angron fight.
Right, that was
that we get in this book.
That is pre-Heresy, but it is there. And like when Angron finally tells Lorgar like what's happening, and it's like, Russ was trying to save you. Russ is a giant colossal fuckwit, but like he was trying his hardest, and you couldn't beat the lesson into your head. Oh, it's heartbreaking.
And all throughout the book, it's talking about this, this night, this battle between the Space Wolves and the World Eaters, and specifically Russ and Angron, and both of them claim they won.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happened? Like, why do they both see it that way? Right. But then Angron explains, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay. I get it. I get how both sides thought they won.
Right.
That was neat.
Both sides won and both sides
Lorgar's like, you colossal waste of brain matter.
Yeah.
Like, Russ had you dead to rights. He could have had you killed there, and he let you go. And you think you won because he didn't. Like, that's how you interpret these events. And Ingron's like, yeah, I won. What's wrong with you? And it's like, oh, Angron. Yeah. Incredible.
It's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, just such a good book. So good.
And like it's ancillary to like the rest of what's going on, but there's some like key really sick moments that we've just skipped over, which is like at Armatura, Lorgar deploys to try and dig Angron out. He's like, I have to go and help him. He could die. And he's like digging, and he tanks 2 plasma shots from a Titan.
Which everyone's impressed by. Let's just put it that way.
Everyone's impressed. He uses magic to heal himself later, so it's barely an inconvenience. But like Angron busts out of the ground at that moment and catches the foot of a Titan. It's like, oh my god, that is it's like I don't know, it's a little superhero where it's like, okay, Captain America is going to be able to pull down a helicopter exerting 6,000 foot-pounds of force or whatever, because it's a helicopter, but it's like, it's really cool to have like these cinematic moments sometimes. And I feel like that,
Absolutely.
I really dug that as a moment.
Yeah, that's super good. Because
Yeah.
Angron's just busy, like, he just finished tunneling through like 300 meters of rubble. He's not doing well and
Right.
still has enough in him to like stop. It's the Warhound? What is it?
Yeah, it's a Warhound Titan, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, stops the Warhound from stepping on his buddy here, who
Right.
again he sees as weak and needing protection.
Right. And
Yeah.
like, again, the fact that he even is capable of caring about saving Lorgar at this moment is like he still has some control and some sense at sometimes. It makes it all the more heartbreaking.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, definitely. So that's the thing. That's what makes Angron as a character. If he's just blood red, thirsty battle madness all the time, then you're like, he's a prop. Like, there's not a person in there. But yeah, the fact that there is a person in there and they really, really do explaining who the person is and what they want and what their trauma is, it makes it work. Yeah.
Whew, so that's the A story. What's the B story that's going on here? Because that is.
So then,
do you want this? Do you want to explain it?
no, go ahead. I mean, it's just the broship, right? It's
It is
the
the
best bros,
Argyle
Argotol and Karn
yeah
relationship.
the only two people who are maybe sort of in control of their legions anymore, or at least other bridges between them. Because like
Right.
the Primarchs think each other are like weak and mad, right? The rest of the Legion are like, well, those are just blood fluffing maniacs, and those ones are just like ludicrous cult worshippers dudes, you know. But
Right.
Argyle and Khan, they're brothers in the sense that they fight in the dueling pits together, but not very often, right? Like, neither of them really care for spectacle fights, and they're like, it really only counts if my life's on the line. But Erebus shows up after his victory at Calth, and is like, hey, Argyle, so I need your help. This guy Khan, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen the futures, like the warp has told me that like he might at some point become an issue, and we might need to kill him. And like, you know, I'm not going to ask you to do it, right? Because obviously that's not going to happen. But like, here's what I'll tell you: he's going to get stabbed in the back on like some planet, you know, at the break of dawn or whatever. He gives him some prophecy.
Gray skies.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to give you this prophecy. Maybe you can stop it. And he's like, oh, and in return, I'll revive Cyrene for you. This human who survived Monarchia, who was like in the first Heretic book, was like this blinded prophet lady, or like a confessor.
Who has a very close relationship with Argyle.
Yes, in specific, and Khan to some degree as well. Like,
And her final words as the Custodies have killed her is her feeling Argyl's face and saying, what have they done to you? What happened to you?
Like, what have
is
they
it?
done? What have they done to you? And like, he doesn't know if she means like the Warp or the Legion or like the Imperium. Like, he doesn't know the context of explicitly whether or not she's expressing doubt in the Legion or doubt in their chaotic faith. You know?
Right. Because then she dies.
Yes. Because then she dies. But anyway, she gets the comeback.
It's very funny, too, just backing up a little bit. Lorgar's like, yo, Argyle, Erebus is going to make you an offer. Don't take it.
Yeah.
And Argyl's like, Erebus is a slimy bastard. Of course I won't. And then, like, he brings him the one thing he wants. And it's like, oh, okay, right. This is usually how this works.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, he even frames it as, like, obviously the reviving of the person that he wants is, like, a favor. It's not, like, a deal or a trade. It's, I'm just doing you a favor. It's fine. But he phrases, like, the deal or the help that he actually wants is still not what's being happened. It's like, I need your help because Khan might stop me someday. And he's like, no, I refuse on that. He's like, okay, but like, I'll tell you, someone might try to kill him at some point. Not going to be me. I'm not going to have you do it. And if you don't want a part of that, that's fine, but I'll give you this information. And like, obviously what he really wants is to have him like play interference on this supposed prophecy. Erebus is such a schemy bastard that he makes it feel like Argyltal has turned down the offer and is getting something out of it in return, you know?
Right. And at no point is like, this is suspicious. I should be really, really worried about what's happening here.
Right.
Yeah.
So Cyrene comes back and she's a perpetual now.
Yeah, I had a question about that. That's it? You get brought back from the dead and now you're a perpetual.
I guess.
The other perpetuals sure said that she was, but I don't know. Members of the Cabal aren't exactly always straight.
Right. So, interestingly, John Grammaticus says that the Cabal turned him into a perpetual. So, turning someone into a perpetual is a thing.
Yes.
And I guess it's like Erebus doesn't seem to know that that's what he's done in reviving this poor woman.
Or maybe he didn't, and Cabal guy's lying. We don't know.
Maybe, but like the ship they were on, the Fidelitas Lex, certainly got destroyed at the end of the book on Nyseria. And so if she wasn't, she's probably dead.
Right. And they're mourning her like she's dead. They sure talk about her like she's dead.
Right, because they don't know that she's maybe a perpetual. But like this guy seems to know that she's a perpetual. And Cabal seem to know their stuff about perpetuals.
He wants to recruit her. That much is clear, right?
Yes.
He wants to recruit her to the Cabal. And she's like, I just got resurrected 10 minutes ago. I don't know what's going on at all. Leave me alone. Right?
Right.
So he gets flamered to death and then is back 10 minutes later in and still like just trying to recruit her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe they're more like, holy shit. Like, we didn't know this could happen. Erebus brought someone back from the dead. We need this person. We need to study them and figure out what's going on.
Right.
I don't necessarily trust him when he says that she's a perpetual.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy from the Cabal, his name is Damon Pratanus.
There we go.
I mean, for someone who's not who they're pretending to be, Pratanus is a little on the nose. But then again, we had John Grammaticus, who could speak every language.
Right.
So, you know.
Names are usually on the nose in the Warhammer universe, let's be honest.
What do you mean Angron's not angry? Yeah.
Yeah. So then at the end of the book, it's all big and sad. Argyltal has been fighting forever on Nyseria.
Trying to keep Khan alive. And to his credit, like they definitely talk back and forth about I definitely did save you several times. He's like, yeah, but we saved each other, right?
And Karn's like, we do that every time we fight together. Like, this is nothing new.
We're in war, obviously, you know. But
that's great.
Argyltal is exhausted. He is utterly drained. And in the first Heretic, I believe there's a prophecy that's given to him about the time he dies, which is in the shadow of great wings. And if you know anything about the other Primarchs or whatever, great wings usually refers to Sanguinius.
Right. Who has wings. He's
an angel. He has wings.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you think that, like, oh, okay, that's a prophecy for Argyltal, who's maybe going to fight the Primarch, or fight near the Primarch and get slaughtered. Turns out Erebus has other plans. He sees Argyltal's apparent demonhood and slow inability to turn back into like a regular Marine. Like, he's losing the ability to shift back and forth. His armor is now permanently part of him. He can't take it off. And Erebus says to him, your presence is like going to turn Khan away from the great powers. Like, Khan's been chosen as well. Like, he's right up there. But like, you being here is a problem because we would rather have Khan than you.
Gotta make a decision at some point, yeah.
So Erebus stabs him in the back.
with super magic dagger
And
because Argoltal's like, my demon is gone. What the hell?
yes.
Yeah.
So his poor demon disappears, and he dies in the shadow of great wings, being the Aquila atop of an Imperator Titan.
Yeah.
Which, prophecies be like that sometimes.
They sure do. A lot of the time, actually. Yeah.
Almost every time, yeah.
Yeah, it's great because he gets stabbed and he's like, I'm supposed to die in front of great wings. This is bullshit.
And Erebus is like,
And Erebus is
ta-da!
like, yeah, he like pulls aside the curtain. He's like, hey! Erebus, you fucker. And then, since everybody knows who killed Argoltal and are pissed about it.
Well, Khan is having a chat to Lorgar, and Lorgar's like, wouldn't you like to know who killed Argoltal? And
yeah, because Lorgar's done with Erebus.
Right. And he's like, okay, I think I'm the Primarch. You're supposed to be following me, not doing your own thing, considering yourself the Hand of Destiny or some bullshit. It cuts to the epilogue where Erebus is fighting in the dueling pits. And what I'll say is we're like 15 books in at this point. Erebus has been a super dick in every single book, right? That is his defining character trait. So
yes.
Getting this scene is so cathartic.
It is not cathartic.
Well, it very nearly is.
Very nearly is cathartic. Yeah, it's a big tease is what it is.
It's a big tease, but it's still really fun to see someone just beat the ever-living shit out of him.
Yeah.
Because
true.
Khan decides to sign up for the dueling pits today to fight Erebus, and everyone's like, what's Khan doing here? He doesn't care unless it's like to the death, right? Like he never puts on a good performance in the dueling pits. He loses a ton of the time when he was fighting with Argoltal.
Right.
And he's like, Sanguis Extremis, Erebus, let's go. And he bodies him in like 3 blows. He's like on the ground and he's like, all right, stand back up. Let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, on the ground.
Does he say Sanguis?
Sanguis Extremis? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You can right off the bat? I thought he told...
I'm pretty sure he does.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Because...
Could be wrong.
All right.
You can look that up.
I've got it right here. Dun, 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 dun. First blood. Erebus says first blood? Oh, no, you're right. He does. He does Sanguis Extremis right at the start.
Yeah.
And then Erebus goes, bold, Karn. Are you... And then Karn smashes him in the face.
It's great.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's pretty great. And then as he's about to take him down, he teleports himself out and runs. And everyone's like, yeah, that's about right for Erebus.
That makes sense for a word bearer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like with this close to having Erebus's skull splattered all over the floor, it would have been great. Almost cathartic. Almost.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. All right, good. Man, we're way over time. We gotta wrap this up.
We are. We gotta pick the next book.
Give me your next book.
You want me to just pick?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I do want to say, I mean, I know we mention this every time, and you've mentioned it a couple times already, but like, Aaron Dembski-Bowden is so good. Like, just other books, there are parts I read where I'm like, that was really well written. And here it's like everything. The whole thing's just like, this is all well written. Every conversation, every battle scene, everything is just so well crafted. Oh, and I forgot. On that note, I do want to say the afterwards, which you don't get.
Oh, yes, please.
Tragically, you do not get.
Yes, I totally wish I got them.
I know. He says...
Yeah, what does he say?
No. He talks about the writing process for him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he says... Oh, I guess this is a little interesting, too. He says, I don't write the traders more often because I prefer them, because I think it's easier. It just comes down to what story you find yourself wanting to tell at the time. So it's a little bit easier for him that way. But he says character arcs. He talks about what he did with Angron. Talks about the Ultramarines a little bit. It says one of the greatest challenges in writing the Traitor Legions is making them not humanizing them exactly, but making them relatable. You don't have to like them or agree with them, but I think it's killer writing when people understand them.
Right, and like Argyle Tal makes his perspective on like warp worship really understandable, which is like I don't like that the warp responds to pain. Like I take no pleasure or joy in it, but it is the truth of how our universe works. And it's like you can understand and get what he's saying there, even without liking him, you know?
Yeah, and that's what he's good at doing. So here it is. Betrayer wasn't an easy book to write. To be honest, I say that about everything I write. I'm always jealous of authors who say they find writing easy, because for me, it's always a trial of panic, self-doubt, and terrifying deadlines. But Betrayer was a beast of a book. It came out at 117,000 words, and getting every paragraph out of my head was like getting blood from a stone. So, like, number one, it's hard to write this well.
Yeah.
It doesn't just flow to get this level of writing. It is hard. Yeah. And two, every paragraph, he said. Every paragraph.
Okay. Yeah, no, I believe it.
That's nuts. I mean, that's so much respect. Anyway.
He's one of my favorite authors for a reason.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is The Mark of Calth. It's an anthology.
I lost you. The Mark of?
Calth.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know that. I know Calth.
It's an anthology. It'll be great. ABD does some of these books. Dan Abnett does some. Guy Haley, Gray McNeil, John French. Good names. Apparently one of these stories, and I have not read it, is told from the entire perspective of one of the word bearer's special daggers. Like, the dagger is sentient and is, like, telling the story. Like, hey, I'm a dagger. Here's what I did.
Oh, boy. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Of course, the library doesn't have it. Why would it have it?
Who knows?
It's weird. Like, the early ones, a bunch of times the library had it, but these later ones, they don't. You'd think the more recent the book is, the more likely they would be to have it on some level. Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're more of the older ones like that got donated, and so they're able to get the digital license to distribution as well.
Yeah, maybe.
The latter ones, people held on to them. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Got it.
Excellent.
We will be ready for next week.
Sweet.
Okay, good. Time to go. Got to wrap this up. So, thanks for hanging out for another edition of the Falcon Paladin Hour. Got some Fallout in here, StarCraft 2, Warhammer stuff. Good one for sure. Enjoyed the time. So yeah, we do this live every week at twitch.tv/Somicron. The VODs are available at youtube.com/@Somicron. You can also support the podcast directly by buying merch at falconpaladin.store or by going to patreon.com/Somicron. So check those places out if you're interested. And we'll be back next week with more Warhammer and more StarCraft 2 and whatever else we want to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thanks again for hanging out. Until next time, you take care of yourself. Goodbye.
Bye.